Welcome to UNCG. I'm Aaron Terranova. This is the Master of Science in Athletic Training Education program, and you're about to be a preceptor. So sit back, relax, enjoy the video you're about to watch. Make sure you watch all the modules in our series, and I'll see you at the end of them for your final examination. Good luck. Welcome to the UNCG entry-level Masters in Athletic Training Education program, Preceptor Initial Training. You're going through the modules right now, and now you have entered into Module 3. Qualities of an effective preceptor. So we're going to start off what the literature says about effective clinical supervisors. And the study on your left from Warrant and Weiner is with athletic trainers. The study on your right from Sloan is with nurses. But they're both healthcare professionals, they're both medical professionals. And you're going to see similarities between what makes an effective clinical supervisor. So we're going to tackle the Warrant-Weiner first. Being confident in your skills and being able to demonstrate those skills are obviously two needed things in an effective clinical supervisor. Being respectful of the student and understanding that they are a student, that they're here to learn, also needed for an effective clinical supervisor. Making sure that you provide your students opportunities to practice these skills on real patients in real time. In the later modules, you're going to see how much we pride ourselves here at UNCG on giving our students real-time experiences and working on their autonomy and independent decision making. So a good clinical supervisor will give their students a chance to work on real patients, real injuries in real time. Don't be ashamed to admit that when you don't know something. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, and actually it's a wonderful launching point for a discussion. If a student comes up to you and asks you a question, just I don't know the answer, but you know what, that's a great thing. We should talk about that tomorrow. Let's both go home and research it, or why don't you go and find an article and we can talk about it. What a great discussion point for a professional dialogue on something. Making sure that you're assessed. Well, I'm not talking 24 hours a day, cell phone texting, all that kind of stuff, but when you are in the athletic training facility, when you are at the practice field and you and your student are working together, you need to be accessible to them, not only physically but also mentally. And I understand that the world happens, we all have stuff going on, but if the student is there and wants to engage with you, please make sure that you are accessible to them. And that does go right back to the student also. When they are in the athletic training room, we expect them to be accessible to you and not be on their cell phone or playing Candy Crush or something like that. And make sure you discuss how these things can be practically applicable. I know a lot of us live in the real world, and we might be showing them something that works great in black and white. It looks great in a textbook. It looks great in the laboratory. But you as a preceptor, show them how it actually is in the real world and how that actually can be practically applicable. The study from Sloan, this is looking at more the relationship between a preceptor and a student. And they saw that the ability to form supportive relationships is very important to be a good clinical supervisor. Having relevant knowledge and clinical skills obviously goes without saying. Expressing a commitment to providing that supervision. It doesn't want to be, oh, I have a student, great, well, let's just get this 2 hours over with because I really don't want you there. You have to be committed and have to want the student there so you can really work on the teaching and developing that relationship. Obviously, having good listening skills comes with any sort of relationship, but being able to not only hear what they're saying, but actually appreciate and translate that into your teaching is going to be important. And the last point, which I think is very important, is that you want to be viewed as a role model. The students in nursing felt that they wanted someone who inspired them, who liked what they did, who wanted to be in the profession. So we're asking you as a clinical supervisor, yes, we all have bad days, and yes, we know that there are some problems with athletic training, but don't let that drag into your relationship with your student. Being a very negative, Debbie Downer type person just makes the whole relationship bad, and it really sours the student as they're trying to go for athletic training. Remember, they're here to be athletic trainers. They are entry-level master students. This is what they want to do. They're not feeling out other professions. They want to be athletic trainers. So for them to come into a situation and just be completely soured because their clinical supervisor is not happy or doesn't like what they're doing, it just sort of ruins the whole thing for them. So try to understand that they are here, that you are here, that you love your profession, you love what you're doing for athletic training. And if you do have a negative thing about the profession, which we all do, why don't you use that as a discussion point? Talk about how changes can be made, either through grassroots or legislative efforts, or being involved in a profession, the district, or the state in some way, shape, or form to affect a change in the profession. Now, there are some other studies that are out there you can see, and I'm not going to go through them, but just attributes, behaviors, and standards of ACIs, which it was ACIs back when the study came out. It's obviously preceptors now. But these are just some studies if you wish to look up them and just see other things that we have missed. And that's coming from the preceptor side of the equation, what preceptors can do to be effective. But I'm going to kind of switch gears for a second. Let's talk about the student aspect of it, because it is a two-way street. At least it should be a two-way street. And this study came out a couple of years ago, and it talked about graduate of athletic training education programs. And I just snipped this from the results section in the abstract that 4 themes emerged from it. Athletic training students are frustrated because of the ATAP being anxiety and overwhelmed. In our program, they will have stress, anxiety, and being overwhelmed. We're doing in what some schools take 4 years to do, we're only doing in 2 years at a graduate level. So their stress and their anxiety is going to be elevated. Please keep that in mind. 2, the interactions with classmates, faculty, and preceptors can also be a source of frustration. We get that. We understand that. Most of the students come in. We try to make sure that they fit in very well to the overall scheme of our program. So this isn't as big as an issue as it might be in some programs. But monotonous clinical experience is the 3rd point. Often we have students feeling disengaged, and that is true. So we try to make sure that we keep each clinical rotation fresh, new, and we don't want it to be just sitting out at practice without any sort of educational component to it. And the 4th one, students question entering the athletic training profession because of fear of work-life balance and low compensation. And this goes back to the previous slide where we talked about the negative perception of athletic training. Tell them that you can have a work-life balance and that you can get compensated for what you do. And again, use it as a teachable moment how they can affect the change and how they can make it better within their own institution, at their state, at their district, and maybe even at the national level. So this is an interesting study, but one thing that came out, if you read the conclusions, in order to reduce all these frustrations, this study suggested athletic training programs should validate the students' decisions to pursue athletic training. Make them understand that athletic training is a wonderful profession, that they are darn smart for going into it. Provide clinical experiences with graded autonomy, and we will talk about this in a later module, how first-year students are going to be needed to be sort of gradually brought into the program, but a second-year student in our program, we want to give them that supervised autonomy and that independence. Encourage positive personal interactions between student, faculty, and preceptors, which I think we do, because I really think we have stakeholders in this program who really care about UNCG, and we really hope that you as a new preceptor feel like you're a part of our family. And successfully model the benefits of a career in athletic training. A lot of us have been in this profession for many years, so please make sure, don't get hung up again on the negative, but let them know that there are lifelong athletic trainers who have found very fruitful careers in the profession. So I thought that was a nice study. Again, if you want, you can go back and look at the citation if you want to read it for yourself. Now, a couple of things about our students you have to understand, as I just took a quick screenshot. Understand that the cost of college tuition is growing exponentially, and it's unbelievable. So if you look at this graph down here, you can see compared to other sort of costs, college tuition from 2003 to 2013 has grown almost 80%. So as college tuition has grown up, has unbelievably exploded, our students are getting caught in that. All right. You might have heard some of the discussion points about the transition to the entry-level master's. One of the points that brought in was, is there going to be increased debt? Well, understand that our students already are doing an undergrad program, which could be anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So they may have 5 years of undergrad tuition, cost of living, etc., already under their belt before they even get to UNCG. So understand that that is a factor. Finance is a huge factor for our entry-level master's students. And that is going to lead into the next point, which is most of our college students are already having part-time jobs. And this study shows that 4 out of 5 students work part-time while studying. And it's an expectation that they're doing in undergrad, and they may have to do it again at graduate school. Okay, so these students are going to be different than the students even 5 or 10 years ago who are coming from ATEP programs. They expect to work, and they might need to work either to help pay tuition, but more likely to help pay the everyday bills, to pay their rent, to pay their food, etc. They're not living on campus. They don't have a meal plan. They don't have a room and board plan. They're living in an apartment, etc. So we need to be aware and sensitive and flexible enough to understand that these still are students. Now, we want them to appreciate the work-life balance of having to juggle this kind of stuff, but don't lose sight of the fact that they are in graduate school, that they have academic responsibilities, they have homework responsibilities, and they have financial responsibilities. And putting all that together, this is a different student than 5 or 10 years ago. It's certainly a different model. It's certainly a different student than when I went through school back in the late 90s. And we need to start appreciating that this is just a different student, that the millennial generation is going to be different, and that's a new era for athletic training education, especially at the entry-level master's program. Now, we're not asking them for a free ride, and we are certainly not telling you that they have to relinquish their clinical or their academic responsibilities, but just we're saying be sensitive to this and understand that flexibility is now becoming more and more paramount as this new generation of student comes through these programs. So a couple of last minute pearls. Make sure you treat your student with respect and understand that they are a student first. They're an athletic training student. They're here to learn. They're here to get an education, and they're paying very good money to do that. So please do not just consider them an extension of the workforce. They're here for mentorship. They're here to learn, and they're here to become an athletic trainer in a profession that they are truly interested and want to be in there. Making sure that you understand that they're going to be working jobs and their clinicals, and they have to somehow marry all of that together, and that's going to be very specific to your student, your situation, etc. So just be sensitive to that while at the same time pushing them to fulfill all their responsibilities. And remember, this is not a comparison or a competition. We don't want you comparing, well, when I was a student, I did this, or in my program, I did this. We all get that. We all came from different areas. You all came from different programs. So really just appreciate the student where they are now and how you can get them to be the best athletic trainer they can be, and try not to be bouncing and comparing, etc., because that very rarely ever ends up in a very good situation. And don't forget, you love athletic training. At least I hope you love athletic training, and I hope that's why you're going to be a preceptor. Yes, we all have bad days, but remember, this is a great profession. It's a wonderful profession. So the fact that you're in it, please make sure you hammer home that message to your student, even if that means at the end of the day sitting down and saying, I know we had a rough day, I know it was hard, it was rainy, the coaches were upset, etc., but don't forget that this is still a great profession, that this is still what you want to do. So maybe just ending the day with that will hopefully inspire the student to understand why they're going through all this. Just real quickly in the last couple of minutes, just understand that when we evaluate our preceptors, so how can we determine if you're an effective preceptor? There are student evaluations, both at midterm and then rotation, that the student will do of you. That I will be coming in doing site visits. You have your bi-weekly, and you'll learn about all of these type of administrative things in a later module. And then I will be meeting with the student throughout the year. So there are both formal and informal ways for me to be playing catch up and understanding what's the relationship between the preceptor and the student. By all means, you're more than welcome to contact me at any time. Give me a call, email, etc., and just talk to me about how things are going in a clinical setting. So this is certainly a two-way conversation. I want to make sure that you feel you can talk to me as a preceptor, and I'm going to be talking to you as the clinical supervisor. And finally, I really want to thank you. Our preceptors are the backbone of our program. You are where the rubber meets the road. So being an effective clinical instructor, I hope you can take some of the skills and some of the ways that we evaluate it in learning. In the next mod, you're going to figure out some of the teaching and learning strategies will hopefully make you an even better preceptor. So as you go on to Module 4, just keep these type of things in mind, and I'll see you in the next module.